Hello, my most cherished ninth grade civics students. Today we're going to indulge in a little talk about political parties. Hopefully, at one point, you'll have read the article One Big Party. It's located in Schoology, so just click on the link and you should be ready to go. You may ask me, what is a political party? Well, it's a group of voters with common interest to come together and influence or control decision making in government by getting their party candidates elected to office. So, political parties work together with a common ideology, common beliefs to help people get elected into office. They're going to work together to accomplish common goals within the government. Hopefully, you had a chance to read the article One Big Party. There's 5 things the article discusses. One is to nominate candidates. In order to coordinate and accomplish the goals of the political party, they need to nominate people that the party agrees with, that follows the party platform. A party platform is a group of ideas that party agrees on. So they work as a group to nominate people that support their ideas. Number 2, influence policy. The goal is to accomplish specific things laid out by the party and then accomplish those goals in creating laws and supporting laws that they agree with. The third is unite government. You can have Democrats that are the president, in the Senate, in the House, at local levels, in the state government, and the political party unites them upon a common goal. So if you're a Democrat president, you work with the Democrats in the House and the Senate, or if you have a Democratic governor, he or she works with the Democrats in the House and the Senate at the state level. But anyways, they work together on common goals. The Republicans would do the same. If there's a Republican president, he would work with Republicans in the House and the Senate to achieve their goals. Number 4 is create balance. That's an important process, and especially in a two-party system. Each party has a stance on one side of the aisle. So if the Democrats support one side, the Republicans are going to support the opposite. Or if the Republicans support a specific issue, the Democrats generally support a different side of that issue. So it creates balance. And number 5, inform citizens. Each party reaches out to the citizens to try to influence them in order to get their support and their votes so people in their party get elected into office. Political parties are a way for large numbers of people with similar ideas to get things done. They work together. Like I mentioned earlier, the House and the Senate, the Republicans would pass bills that they support, and if there's a Republican president, they would generally pass those laws or sign those laws and to accomplish the goals that they set forth by the political party. The funny part is the Constitution never mentions political parties. In fact, many of the founding fathers, including George Washington, felt like political parties would lead to divisiveness and disagreements and not get things accomplished for the betterment of our society and the betterment of our country. In previous slides, I mentioned a party platform. A platform, think of it like a deck. There's all sorts of planks on that deck. And each plank on your deck would represent a specific issue. So if you're a Republican, what is your belief on education, on economics, on taxes, on healthcare? So each plank is an individual issue that forms the whole party platform. So the Republicans have a party platform. It's just a list of things, or the planks of all the things that they support. They work towards then nominating candidates that support that party platform, and they work to try to get laws passed in the favor of the platform which the political party supports. And it ensures that elected candidates do their job. So if you're elected as a Republican and you're not following the party platform, the Republican Party would probably push to have someone else run for your position the next year. Incumbents is mentioned on this slide also. They're politicians who have already been elected in office. So the incumbents for the state of Minnesota, someone like Amy Klobuchar is an incumbent senator. She already holds a position, and when she runs for a re-election, she'll be known as the incumbent. How do political parties get their candidates elected? The first thing they do is they go through a nomination process. We'll talk about this later, but some states have primaries and some states have caucuses. Either way, it's the way political parties choose their candidates for election. The second thing that they do is they help them campaign. They help them with a lot of times raising money, maybe helping them with the structure of their campaign, helping them find campaign managers, and distributing whatever information about their ideas, helping them with commercials, yard signs, all those things. And where do they get their money from that? Well, a lot of times the political party helps them raise money for the candidate, and that money is used for their campaigns. You can't win without money, that's for sure. When you run for office, they also help with volunteers to make sure supporters are registered and they get out to vote. So both parties try to get people within their ideology or their beliefs to sign up and make sure they're registered to vote, and then encourage them to get out to vote when the election occurs. You may ask me, what are the advantages of a two-party system? Well, with the two-party system, when one party fails and doesn't do their job, the other side is ready to step in and take over with a different plan and different ideas. It helps large groups of people to work together. Like I mentioned earlier, Republicans work across different positions to accomplish goals. Same thing with the Democrats. They offer a guide to the uneducated when voting. So even if you don't know the candidate's beliefs, you can go to the political party and look what they believe in. Because in general, many of the issues will be supported by that candidate. If they're Republican, they'll support those issues. If they're a Democrat, they'll support the issues on their party platform. Different programs and policies are used to solve the nation's problems. So you can look at the tax code, and Democrats have a belief on one side and Republicans on the other. And you can look at healthcare. You can look at any of the issues out there, and the political party will have a stance on those issues. Disadvantages, and the disadvantages are coming up more and more in the United States. We've got a clear divide on our political parties. It seems like they've gone further out on the political spectrum. Democrats further left, Republicans on the further right. So there's much talk of having third parties or fourth parties where there's different party platforms that people can look at. So one of the arguments that people don't like about a system is there's either one or the other. There's no third choice. So that's probably a big disadvantage of a two-party system. All the power is concentrated in those two groups. The term political machine is where party dominates the area, giving others a little chance. Throughout history, we've talked about political machines in, let's say, Chicago, where political parties control everything because their ability to raise money. And if it's a Democrat stronghold, that political party will be a political party machine where they dominate politics. So over in the area where Republicans are strong, they would have a party machine to help them dominate a specific area with their policies and ideas. And finally, a big disadvantage that's come up recently in the last 10 years and maybe 20, maybe last 100 years is campaign spending is enormous. $1 billion is spent by each candidate in the presidential election. $1 billion. So some people feel like too much money is being spent on the election of people that serve our country. One thing that many people don't understand when they walk into the polls for the first time they vote is there are more than two parties on the ballot. There's many third parties. What is a third party? It's challengers of the two major parties. They affect the outcomes of elections often, and they believe the majority parties are not meeting their needs. So if you went in to vote, how about this? In 4 years, when you go in to vote, for president, you're going to find that there's the Democrats, there's the Republicans, there'll be a socialist party, there'll be a communist party, there'll be grassroots parties. So there are many more political parties on the ballot than you realize. And maybe by the time you vote, maybe those third parties will gain some strength and they'll be more commonly in the news and have more support of Americans. So I mentioned the word grassroots, a political movement that originates at the local level. A lot of times, different states and different cities and different counties across America will have ideas that they really believe in, and that's starting at the local level, the grassroots level, and that movement can push through a political party or push through an area to gain support for specific issues. So grassroots means a political movement that originates at the local level. This might be a nice spot for you to take a minute and watch the video comparing political parties. You can also use some articles that we read in class, but there's some topics here that I have that are on the party planks. And you can sit down and write down what do the Republicans think about national defense versus the Democrats, or the environment. What's the goal of the party when it deals with the environment, or healthcare, or energy, or education, or economy, and so on down the line. So just you could take a few minutes, watch this video, and just you can jot down some ideas so you're familiar with what each party stands for. what I want you to do is I want you to learn what your beliefs are. Sometimes as we grow up as kids, like we kind of just believe what our parents believe. And that's not all bad. But at the same time, you're going to become more independent. You're going to find a career path, and it might lead you to have different ideas. And knowing what the party stands for is so important. So when you go to vote, you can decide what you believe in versus what your friends or family or neighbors believe in. So that's my goal, is that you take a minute to look through some of these issues and fill in what each party stands for. Here's a list of tried and true issues, and I've had this slide for many, many years, and the Republicans and Democrats generally still believe some of the same beliefs on the topics. Like Democrats tend, or the left tends to want more laws and regulations on guns, and the right and Republicans tend to be more anti-gun control. The left or Democrats tend to be more pro-choice when it comes to abortion issues, and Republicans tend to be more pro-life. So they're against the idea of abortion. So you can go on down the line, you can look at this, and you can use this to jump back to that list of topics that I had previously and fill those in. So what is a political spectrum? It's the whole idea that you can compare different political parties and where they stand. The old way I used to teach it is it's just a line, and one side is the left, and on the other side is the right. So liberals tend to be on the left, and Republicans tend to be on the right. On the last few slides, you're going to see that that's not really the case. And I'm going to actually have you take a couple political spectrum quizzes. You can search one and find one yourself, or I have a couple that you can choose. I'll ask you questions on your ideas, and then I will tell you where you fall on the political spectrum. For the most part, the political spectrum emphasizes two things. What is the purpose of government? Do you want government making a lot of decisions in your life, or do you want the government outside of those decisions? And some people want government involved in some areas of their life, maybe the personal or social issues, and they don't want government involved in the economic issues, or vice versa. They don't want government involved in the social issues, but they want government involved in economic issues. So when you take those political quizzes, it'll give you an idea where you fall and where you want government involved in your life. Here's that old school political spectrum that I was talking about. On the left, generally Democrats, on the right, generally Republicans. And you can see even further out on the spectrum where radicals and reactionaries fall. I'm not going to test you on the radical versus the reactionary, but I just wanted you to see what the old school spectrum looked like. So political parties are loosely formed around those broad political ideologies that we just looked at. It's important that you understand that you might not agree with all the ideas on the left if you're Democrat, or all the ideas on the right if you're Republican. But in general, you'll probably agree with many of them. So I want you to realize, just because you're a liberal or a Democrat, or you're a conservative Republican, doesn't mean that you are way out on that political spectrum. Liberal Democrats can be way farther out than moderate Democrats. Same thing. Conservative Republicans can be further out on that spectrum than moderate Republicans. It seems throughout time. In fact, and we can talk about it. I can show you stats that, hey, the Republican Party has shifted more right in general. The mass of the Republican Party and the mass of the Democratic Party has shifted more left. But there's still a lot of moderates that are in the middle. So you won't be able to do it on this video. You have to go back to the PowerPoint I posted, but there'll be live links to these surveys. Or you can just survey political spectrum survey. You can search it on the internet and find one. The first one is from Pew Institute, and it's a shorter version, and it can kind of tell you where you fall on the political spectrum. And the second one is more the advanced one, and in the next slide I can show you how to understand your results on the political spectrum. I teach as a senior political science teacher. It's a much better way to look at the political spectrum than that flat one line, liberal versus conservative. Due to YouTube's length of video restrictions, 15 minutes, I won't be able to talk a whole lot about this, but we'll talk about it in class, if you're in class. But the key is that you're looking at freedom versus equality and freedom versus order. This is a much better way to look at the political spectrum. If you have some time, take a look at this. political spectrum to get a better idea of where you may fall based on freedom versus equality and freedom versus order. Well, we'll wrap this up for political parties, and we'll see you soon. And on to the next topic. Have a great day.